Yeah. So good. Oh, crud. There we go.
Are we live now? Did you
Yeah.
just screw up the intro again?
I always screw up the intro, dude.
I even reminded you to mute the stream so we wouldn't have any hiccups, and you still managed to find a way to screw something up.
Don't yell at me.
This is it. This is my last show. I can't work like this.
You yelling at me for?
I'm done!
He's out. He's gone. He's done. Hey, guys. Oh, wow. That voice crack. Hey, guys.
Welcome to Journey to 30 with your hosts Snagwolf and Screech.
We have Punchinello with us today. We're going to be talking about AD carry.
Hey, everybody.
Yay, Punch! We finally got him
Yeah,
on.
we finally got you on. Everybody else, well, that's not true. Not everybody else. I think Days was the only person we had, like, no issues with.
Yeah. But it wasn't Punch's fault. It was Twitch's fault.
It was partly my fault, too.
And then
Fuck you, Twitch.
the second week was your fault.
Yeah, screw you, Twitch.
I just want to point out at no point was it my fault.
Yeah, it wasn't your fault. No. Couldn't be.
Nope.
Alright, so last week, we kind of talked about where we came from with our league experience, talking about the differences between Dota and League of Legends and kind of the general gist of our origins into this game. So
It was a get to know us episode.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, definitely. It was a fun one, too, so I definitely recommend if you're looking for a little bit of break in the grind of information, go ahead and check that one out. Remember, all of these are always at the YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/TForce Podcast. So check that out. And champ rotation. Let's see. This week's champ rotation is Diana, Fizz, oh my goodness, Galio, Nar, Jace, Lulu, Maokai, Sivir, Urgot, and Vel'Koz.
Nobody buffed her, got.
Yeah, wow. I gotta say, these are some really good ARAM champions that they got out right now.
I like Galio a lot.
I love Galio.
He's great.
I think you know that I like Galio, don't you?
I don't know, do I?
Oh, I don't know. You do now.
Oh, God. And he's
Yep.
easy to play, too. He's a good champ to learn how to play the game on. He's got a shield. You know what's great about Galio's shield is you get health back when you get hit when your shield is up.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned ARAMs. I was playing an ARAM recently, and I was Galio. And Miss Fortune was on the other team, and when she would make it rain, I would put my shield on and just walk under it and watch my health bar get bigger.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, just to let you guys know, actually, that shield can be put on other people, too.
Yep.
So it's a good one if you're looking to get some health back. And I said ARAMs because there's a lot of good champs for ARAMs in here. Of course, we don't always promote ARAMs. Learning the game, ARAMs can actually be really fun and useful, but getting to know a champion, you definitely want to play on the Rift.
They are a good change of pace, and as
Yeah.
you said, I hope you learn a champion, especially for team fights. ARAMs are very good for actually teaching team fights, since that's all they really are.
Yeah. So who are we wanting to promote this week? Of course, we're going to say Galio because he's pretty straightforward, but who else are we looking at in the champ rotation? I think Lulu's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. She's a good support. Good. A lot of people are playing her top and mid, so she's a strong champion right now.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan
Now-
of Lulu. She was my go-to support for a long time, just because of how much utility she brings.
Yeah.
Maokai's real good right now.
Yeah.
I
was
like
gonna
him a
say.
lot.
Yeah, Maokai as well. He's he got a little bit of a nerf, but he's still pretty strong. I like him. I like Maokai. He's one of my favorite champions. I have like almost all of his skins except for one, I think. So
Well, we got Punch on here. Which would you say would be the easiest ADC on there to learn? Would it be Sivir?
Considering she's the only... yes,
Well-
I'd say Sivir's a good choice.
Nar is also considered marksman.
Is he really?
Urgot
Yeah,
to
he's
have marksman,
second.
too.
He's secondary
Right.
marksman.
I have not seen him enough, so I didn't know
Yeah.
for sure.
Nar is.
I thought
Yeah.
there was a possibility, but since you can't control when he turns into
You
Mega
can
Knock-
though. You can. You can control when he turns.
Okay.
It's a,
Sorta.
oh no, you totally can. If you know how to
You
play
can.
it. If,
How, is there a way to lose rage?
yes, there is. Not getting hit or not attacking. Well, that sounds really bad. Like, oh, now I have to stop attacking to lose rage. If you just play the champion correctly, like as an AD carry, not like getting poken when you can, but more frequently, you're not spamming abilities and you're only last hitting. Gnar is
you
actually
sure
yeah.
his
I'm
rage goes down?
100% positive. I've played a lot of Gnar over the last couple of weeks.
Man, I'm gonna trust you here.
You better
Sounds
trust me.
worth trying.
And so I don't think he's that good of an AD carry. I played him in a game with Dom, and Dom's a really good support. So
Certainly.
it just felt a little lackluster. He takes a couple items to get rolling. He's not like Caitlyn or Jinx where he gets all this bonus damage from an ability or something like that. Like he needs to get his Cutlass, and he usually needs to start working at his Trinity Force before he can really start to do some damage. So I don't like him in regards that his early game is really weak as a marksman, because you have
I
to
think
be
he's
careful.
better top.
Yeah, he's definitely a better top lane. But I definitely recommend playing Gnar because he is a blast. He's really fun.
He is fun. I like him.
Yeah, but let's go ahead and jump right into the marksman role because we only have so much time. We could talk about champions all day. Okay, so first and foremost, AD carry marksman. Punch, what does that mean?
Can you elaborate?
What does it mean for a champion? What does it mean for a champ? We're talking about the basic idea of an AD carry or a marksman.
Okay.
Like, what is their job? What is their role? What's their core like position type of deal?
I'd say a marksman's primary role is to do as much damage to a single target as possible. And a single target is important because it's most of the time it's the marksman's job to kill the enemy tank and also to take down towers as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I like that.
They're also best suited for the job.
Yeah, definitely.
Why? That's their role.
So what kind of what abilities do you think determine specific characteristics make an AD carry a successful or strong AD carry? You could say range, but a lot of champions have range. Annie has ranged. Ziggs has range. What makes it an AD carry?
Yeah, it's actually a combination of I think two things, and range is one of them because range is the easy answer, but I think it's important to mention because there are other champions that rely on auto attacks like AD carries do, that are melee, and that would be like Tryndamere or Master Yi. But they're obviously not considered marksmen because they're melee, and melee means that you're putting yourself in danger to attack other champions. When you're looking at it from a purely auto attack focus, in order for Tryndamere to go in, he has to put himself at risk because everyone on the enemy team is going to be able to attack him. He's in melee range, whereas a traditional marksman or AD carry, because of that range, they can stay safe while auto attacking.
And yeah, I like that answer. It's pretty much a perfect answer, honestly.
I do have a second thing though, because
Okay.
as you said, range alone doesn't make it. Doesn't make a marksman. I think the second thing would be scaling of some variety. And by that I mean is how powerful your auto attacks become the later the game goes on, and that can scale in two ways. The first way would be just through sheer base statistics on a champion, particularly how much attack damage they gain per level and how much attack speed they gain per level. There is an example of an actual caster that was played as a marksman, I think back in Season 2, and that was Kennen.
Yeah.
He played marksman purely because of his base statistic scaling. His attack damage and his attack speed both scaled very well.
Yeah, definitely did. I remember that.
Yeah, a second way a champion can scale is through abilities. And I think Vayne is the best example of this.
Yeah, I think Vayne and Jinx are both perfect examples.
Yeah, I'd agree. Vayne's W is her trademark, which is Silver Bolts. I'll just pull it up and read it.
Yeah.
Consecutive attacks and abilities mark Vayne's target with silver rings. The third consecutive attack will do bonus true damage. So obviously it's something that augments your auto attacks, and that since that true damage scales with a percentage of the target's health, that scales heavily into late game.
Yeah, and mind you, that is true damage. So for those of you, you're looking at Vayne being like, oh, that doesn't seem like a whole lot. Like, what does that entail? True damage is very important. It's the fact that it's one of the reasons why Vayne is so strong late game and why she's considered a hyper carry is because that true damage and that percentage of health will never fall off.
Yeah, and just as a reminder to new people, true damage, you can't block that with armor or magic resist. That damage is applied no matter what.
Yeah, it's always the best sort of damage you can get.
Yeah, definitely. So why is AD carry important? And I'm going to tie this in with another question. Why do specific people play AD carry? Because, like as we've talked about this in every single episode when we're talking about a role, we say, the role matches the personality. And we've been trying to tie that in from the second we started talking about support. But what makes an AD carry important? And then what makes a player good at AD carry? Or marksman?
AD carries are important because I'm going to say that they're the primary source of damage, even though that's not always the case. Sometimes you have a mid laner, a mage that would do more damage than a marksman. But a marksman is almost always going to be in the top two. It's going to be a team's primary source of damage, and it's required in order to take down pretty much the enemy tanks. And once the tanks are dead, then you can get to the enemy team's squishier targets like their supports and the other enemy AD carry, and once you wipe out the team, that map is yours for the taking.
Mm-hmm.
So they're pretty much mostly valuable in team fights, but they're also valuable in taking objectives. As I mentioned earlier, towers, they're probably the best equipped to take out towers because of their auto attack focus. Same thing goes with Dragon and Baron, which are also very important to take as the game goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta get that bonus gold.
Yep.
Yeah, the ADCs they're such an important part of the team that it's not uncommon to have team comps. Like if you watch the LCS, you see the pro players building comps that are basically just to protect that ADC, like protect the COG comp.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the entire role of that team is to make sure nobody gets to Kog'Maw while he demolishes everybody on the other team.
Sorry.
Oh, man! 12 episodes. 12 episodes, man.
Oh, that's funny. No, but I want to build off of what you said. And going back to it, like, you're 100% right. AD carry is one of the most important roles. And over time, it becomes the most important role. As time continues on in the game, and the game starts to stretch out longer and longer, and death timers are getting longer, and every little mistake is becoming more and more crucial, the AD carry starts to become the most relied on person, because, as you said before, AD carry's damage usually scales incredibly well into the late game. And that may not be the case for mages or even for, top lane bruisers. So it's really important to understand that, when you're playing the AD carry role, you have a certain obligation at the end of getting close to the late game that requires you to be on your best. And if you play if you watch any LCS players, any of the AD carry players, you can always see how hard they start to critique themselves when they make a mistake, or if you just watch their determination, they're so focused. It's incredible to watch them play. So don't underestimate that. And I'm not saying don't be afraid of the role, but at the same time, don't underestimate the power of an AD carry, because late game, they're important.
Yeah. Marksmen kind of need to be they're kind of the most mechanically complex champion, I think. You really got to be on your game. If you're not doing damage for your team, you're not doing anything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I was going to say that, first of all, I'm going to agree with the strong mechanics. I think if you do want to pick up ADC, AD carry, you're going to need strong mechanics, so you're going to need to practice those if those aren't good already. But I wanted to say that I think marksman is a very strategic role, because unlike some bruiser champions that can tank a lot of damage and also dish out a lot of damage, those champions tend to just jump in and, throw things to the wind, say fuck it.
Yeah.
But AD carriers can't really do that. They have to pick their fights. They have to mind their positioning, and it takes a lot of thinking while you're playing. got to be aware of where you are and what you're attacking.
So, and a lot of that experience will generate over time. You'll start to get the feel of champions, their range, their capabilities, their strengths, their weaknesses. We could go on about how, Vayne's early game is really bad, but her late game is incredible. On the contrary, Caitlyn's early game is really good, but in the late game, she starts to kind of do less damage compared to others. So we could go back and forth with, learning how a champion works. But generally, when you're, coming into this role, you need, the first thing I think that you should understand is that, this role is not for the lighthearted. You gotta make sure that you're putting your all and trying your best. And, I guess you could say that for pretty much any role, but there's a lot of reliance on the AD carry that I feel like a lot of people don't give enough credit to them for. Everybody's just like, you're just killing people. Like, how hard is that? But you're the one killing people, so...
I'd say that's especially true late game. Not all games make it that far, obviously.
Yeah.
But in order to maximize the opportunity that it will reach late game, you got to have a successful early game, and I think that's where synergy with support comes in. And when playing an AD carry, you have to work well with people, like whether or not you've got voice chat open and you can actually talk to them. In solo queue, obviously, that's usually not the case. You can't actually speak to the person you're laning with, so you have to kind of read what they're doing. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me again. Too much beer. Much, I mean, not enough.
Yes. Perfect.
You got to read what your support is doing and then react to it. You kind of have to be on the same page, and that's going to come with experience, as most of this will. I mean, the best way to gain experience is just to keep playing the game as much as possible. But another part of working well with your teammates is to not get frustrated.
Yeah.
I mean, if things aren't going well in the bot lane, yelling at your teammates not going to do anything. It's not going to make them play better. You kind of have to forgive them. You just got to keep playing, because that's the only way you're going to practice and get better. If you just yell at them and they flame out, then the game is lost. You're not learning anything.
Yeah.
You got to be patient to have a successful bot lane.
I feel like we need to have a psychology round after all of this is done and be like, all right, this is how you don't get on tilt. I'm going to teach you not to get mad.
That's something
not tilt is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, we stress that a lot in multiple episodes. Just be cool, man. Don't yell at your team. And even if someone blatantly screws up and it is 100% their fault, yelling at them is not going to help. They're just going to either get mad, they're going to go on tilt. Just be cool, man.
Yeah. So, we were talking about how things come with experience, and I want to segue that into things that we can, help you learn right now that don't require a lot of experience. And the first and foremost thing, I think, is early game builds, which is almost usually pretty straightforward for every single AD carry. For most AD carries, at least. So what are the few items that you think are most important as an AD carry in the beginning of the game?
Well, right now the standard is just to build a Doran's Blade, and with a pot. That can change to a longsword and 2 pots in rare circumstances. I think the key for both of those builds is to get early attack damage to help with your last hitting, because at the beginning of the game you're going to have very low attack damage, and the more you have, the better you're going to last hit. And to also get some regeneration, and that's what the pots came in. Doran's Blade applies a little bit of regeneration with the 3% lifesteal, and the second pot with the longsword option obviously gives you more sustain there as well.
Yeah. And then what are you looking? So say you backed. It's a pretty standard game, nothing too eventful. You've managed to get some CS under your belt, but it's time for you to go back because maybe a jungler just ganked and you're kind of low, so you're feeling kind of threatened. You're going back. What are the first couple of items that you're looking to get as soon as you go back for your first round?
The very ideal first round, and this is like all in generalities because each champion prioritizes different items, but I think the ideal first back in general would be a BF sword, which is the highest base attack damage item you can get.
Yeah, but why is that? Why BF sword over maybe say like a Vamp Scepter or a Sheen, depending on what you're building?
Well, the BF sword's going to give you, well, as I said, it's the highest attack damage item in the game, and since for most marksmen, all of your abilities are going to stay with attack damage. Obviously, the auto attacks that you rely on so much are based on your attack damage. That's going to give you a large boost to not only last hitting, but also harassing the enemy in lane. Both of which are essential in the laning phase. And after your first back, the laning phase is not going to be over. It's still going to be going on for a while yet. At the same time, you do want to still get regeneration. So if you can't get any pots with your BF sword, you might want to consider getting a Vamp Scepter and then some other, maybe boots or another long sword and some pots with that. Because regeneration is still going to be important. You got to stay in the lane as long as possible in order to last hit more and get more money and get more items and yada yada yada.
Right.
Yeah, every time you back, you're losing out on farm. Sustain's pretty important. It's pretty important for every lane, but yeah, definitely an ADC who wants to get farmed up.
Right. So what do you think are the three most important items for an AD carry to acquire? And I know there's some variation with the lifesteal item depending on who you're playing, but basically, what's the three core things that you think every AD carry will pretty much generally benefit from the most?
Oh, geez, I kind of always think of it in 4.
Okay, 4. Then go with 4. 4 is perfect.
Kind of. It depends on the meta. Which, by meta I mean which items are deemed the optimal build for an AD carry. So those 4 categories that I usually think of them as would be big attack damage, and that can come from any BF sword upgrade, like a Infinity Edge or Bloodthirster. The second one would be attack speed to augment your attack damage, and that usually comes from Static Shiv or Phantom Dancer. Third would be a Last Whisper.
Yeah, armor penetration.
It's pretty much the only armor penetration option you have.
Yeah.
But
Last
Whisper,
I want to build on that. I want to build on that Last Whisper.
Okay, go ahead.
Don't build Black Cleaver as an AD carry. I just want to point that out right now because some people will say, well, what about Black Cleaver? That gives armor penetration. Don't build as an AD carry. Just want to make sure people are aware of that. Last Whisper is your armor penetration. All right, go.
Yeah,
continue.
Since most of you are going to be focusing tanks, Last Whisper, it negates most of the armor because of the armor percentage that it negates. And since tanks are going to be high on armor, that's where you get that. It's damn it. I don't want to say negates again. I'm going to. It negates the most armor from a high armor champion. There you go.
It does. I mean, mathematically, it increases the most damage against an armored player.
Anyways, so the fourth category, I think, is lifesteal. Sometimes that can be combined with your BF sword item, like Bloodthirster. Although Bloodthirster right now in this current meta isn't very popular until later on. You'd probably get that as one of your last items. But I do think it's important, or at least my preference when playing AD carry, is to actually pick up an early Vamp Scepter and just kind of sit on that for a while if I'm not going to upgrade it to a Bloodthirster early, or if I'm not planning to get a Blade of the Ruin King, which is also a legitimate lifesteal item.
Agreed. Yeah. So, we haven't really talked about lifesteal or spell vamp. I don't think before. I mean, we've touched on what it is exactly, so people are, and just by the name, you could you can understand what it does. But why lifesteal on an AD carry? Aren't you supposed to be protected by your team?
Protected by your team.
No, I actually want to touch on this because it's a question that I hear quite a lot. Why do I need to build lifesteal on an AD carry? I'm supposed to be doing the most damage. Why am I needing to acquire life? I should be able to be safe.
Ideally, yes, you should be being protected by your team, but that's not going to happen. The other team knows you're the big damage output. They want you dead. They want you dead real bad. And if they have somebody like LeBlanc or like a Kha'Zix, someone who can, super mobile and can jump on you, you're going to lose your life. There's nothing you can do about that. It doesn't matter how protective your team is. So when you get that lifesteal item, especially late game when you're attacking really fast, you can just get chunked out hard and you can have your life back. You can be back to 100% in no time.
We should also... Go ahead.
There's really no way to avoid all the damage. You can just watch LCS and see that. The AD carries, I mean, Even with a full protect comp, they're always going to take some damage because the enemy team is looking to do whatever it takes to get to the enemy or to get the AD carry and do damage to them.
Yeah.
To kill them. Lifesteal takes over for your regeneration mid game. When I talked about using pots in the laning phase, well, once you get the lifesteal, you don't need this anymore because since you're constantly auto attacking, lifesteal is always going to heal you up for whatever you take, and it's important to stay at high health because let's say you take a lot of damage and your team is dancing around the dragon objective or a tower objective and they want to take that, but you're low health because you took a lot of damage. Well, you need to go back to base. That's putting your team at a severe disadvantage because you're not there to help them, and they want to get that objective. They might need to give it up.
Right. So, and then on top of that, like say you come out of a dragon, or say you come out of, I don't know, maybe an engage in the bot lane and you're really low and you're looking to take dragon in the mid game. That lifesteal is going to allow you to, keep yourself a little bit more safe after a fight. A lot of people may be thinking, oh, the fight just ended. Why do I need to stay even safer? Well, maybe someone got away. Maybe the mid laner's roaming down to you. There's a lot of different reasons why having that lifesteal and then using it in a situation is actually, like, after the fact that the fight had ended, is beneficial for you. So lifesteal is really important on AD carries.
I like I said, I like to get a Vamp Scepter early.
Yeah, that's what I like to do too. Yeah.
Because there's not really anything good to build it into, unless you're going to build the Ruin King.
Yeah.
But you need it early.
Yeah. All right, so gonna talk about zoning just briefly. It's a little bit. It's almost a thing that I don't want to touch on because I feel like it's a lot more advanced. It's an advanced idea about zoning as an AD carry, just because it's so dangerous sometimes to try and zone.
I know what you mean.
But I feel like we should touch on it.
It almost depends more on your support also to do that than it does even with you.
Well, we'll touch on it for the people that are, higher level. For those of you lower level, I'm not saying don't try this. Try everything. You learn the game that way. But just be very careful when you're starting to try and zone. Because you are, next to, a couple supports and maybe the mid laner, the squishiest, easiest person to kill. So when you're going to zone, you're putting yourself out there. And that can be really dangerous. So, take this with a grain of salt and be like, all right, I need to be careful when I do this. So we'll go on zone. We'll talk about zoning for a minute. So the basic concept of zoning is to do damage to an enemy player to stop them from either acquiring CS or forcing them to back altogether. And how does an AD carry go about this? Because we talked about how supports can do it, but an AD carry is a little bit different. So, Punch, how about you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, obviously AD carry's primary form of harass is going to be their auto attacks. Some champions are better equipped to harass and zone better than others due to whatever abilities they have. Caitlyn comes to mind with her long-range Piltover Peacemaker, or Q, which is a long-range nuke that she can use from a safe distance to do damage to the enemy AD carry. I can speak, I swear.
Varus also does it real well.
Right.
Varus, I love Varus.
Varus's Q is probably the longest range ability that AD carry has, besides Ashe.
Yeah.
But so failing an ability like that you can use to harass, you have to rely on your auto attacks, and that's gonna be tricky to do when you're focused on last-hitting creeps. You kind of need to time your auto attacks to hit the enemy when they are focused on attacking a creep. That way they can't attack you back. At the same time, you also want to time your auto attacks, your harassment, when you don't need to use it to kill a creep, because I'd say your primary goal in lane is to get as much money as possible.
Yeah, I like that. But as you say that, I agree. But take this also relatively, guys. Most gold compared to your enemy. So if you're zoning somebody and they're not getting gold, but you are, and you may be missing 1 or 2 CS in the process, but they're not getting any income, you're going to be ahead, and significantly so, regardless of maybe missing, 100 gold every... I'm sorry, not 100 gold. Yeah, 100 gold every couple minutes. So, I mean, like, it's all relative to what you're doing to the opponent, and that's kind of the premise of zoning. You want to establish a gold lead and sometimes an experience lead over your enemy in the manner of doing damage to them so that they can't CS. Now, this doesn't mean that you're trying to kill them. It just means that you're trying to get them away from the creeps and away from their job in the early game is to farm. You're stopping them from doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is a delicate balance between getting or farming for yourself and then preventing the enemy from farming. There's obviously certain certain opportunities for you to take a huge advantage by getting the enemy low enough that they have to go back to base, which is the optimal scenario, because then they lose the most farm that way.
Yeah. And if you ever do that, if you ever force an opponent out of lane, you have a couple options when you do that. And we're talking about zoning, and zoning can definitely mean forcing them out of lane. When you do that, you want to capitalize on that. And there's a couple ways to capitalize forcing an enemy out. One of the biggest ways is to get damage on the turret. It's a huge advantage.
Yes.
And then the second way is taking a dragon. You know, when you zone and you get them away, that's a very, very good opportunity to secure an objective. I mean, like a turret, or more importantly, like dragon. So keep those in mind when you're aiming to zone.
Yeah, I'd say your primary focus is to, well, I shouldn't say primary. I should say if your jungler isn't around, then you're going to be going for the tower. Get as much damage as possible. If your jungler is nearby, you can ping the dragon and get his help in order to take it out.
Yeah. So, and those are good outcomes to successful zoning. So, and that's why you zone.
Also, don't forget, if you can get them to burn a summoner, if you make them flash to get away from you because they get scared, that's also a win.
Yeah,
Yep,
definitely. Yeah, but don't blow your flash to try and flash after them to kill them, because usually, I want to say like 99.99% of the time they're going to flash away, and you're going to follow up the flash, and you're not going to get that kill, and you're just going to waste it.
Yeah. Better to save it for later.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about warding as an AD carry, because it's something that so I play with some people that are not 30, and it's a question that has been brought up to me multiple times before. As an AD carry, should I be saving my gold and not warding? And we've touched on the importance of warding regardless of who you are, but let's talk about warding as an AD carry.
Still essential, and I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of AD carries make is they don't buy wards, and they don't buy enough wards, because they have the assumption that, oh, my gold is so valuable, I need to get as many items as possible. Wards are so cheap and they provide such a big benefit, it doesn't matter. Whenever you can afford a ward, you need to buy one. I'd say the beginning, your first back that we talked on earlier, that's probably going to be the hardest time whenever you buy a ward, because you're probably going to be buying whatever your physical damage item is, whatever you can afford, a BF sword or a pickaxe, and then following that up with pots. But if you can afford a ward in that case, definitely get one. And then from there on out, every time you go back to base, pick up a ward when you go out. Pick up 2 wards.
Yeah, and we've talked about if you have less than 300 gold and you're not buying something immediately, pick up wards.
That's right.
The best thing.
It's also good, I should mention this, if your inventory is full, not a fucking excuse.
Yep.
Sell your Doran's Blade and get 3 wards.
More
important than Doran's Blade.
Absolutely 100% agree with that. Like, I cannot tell you how many times, and I've done it. I've personally done it. And I can rack on myself for doing it all the time too. But just because you have a full inventory, unless you're fully built and you have Infinity Edge, Last Whisper, Bloodthirster, freaking static shit. Yeah, all 6 items. No, then you can't do anything about it and you can't ward. But you're not going to get that until 45, 50 minutes into the game anyways. So that entire time you should be able to be buying wards.
Yeah, I've said it on other episodes. Whenever I leave the store, if at all possible, I make sure I have at least 1 ward. Sometimes you don't have the money or you want to finish an item, but it's just a good habit to get into to have one.
Yeah. So I want to touch on a pink on the AD carry. I love buying a pink as an AD carry.
Sure.
And specifically when I'm playing on blue side as opposed to red side. Blue side because when you're in the bot lane, you have that tri-bush, and it's easy to protect. and it saves your support money so that they can buy a sightstone or any other sort of like helpful item. So
That's a
really
good point.
like it.
If you can, whatever you can do to help out your support is beneficial because they're the most gold starved role in the game. So if you can take a little bit of that burden off their shoulders by getting a ward like that, your support will love you forever and die for you.
Yeah.
I'd also say point that out to your support too. Point out that you bought a
Yes.
pink item because they're probably not going to be expecting it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of supports that are surprised when their AD carry actually buys wards. So
Yeah.
if you do pick a ward for that tribe, just let them know so they can use their pink ward somewhere else.
Yeah. Want to know?
I actually had a support in a recent game. This blew my mind. I was playing ADC and I left the store with a couple of wards, and my support said, how did he put it? Something to the effect of, it's my job to. He said, well, how did that go? He's like, you don't need to buy wards. That's my job. Could you please let me do it? Like, being polite. And I was like, well, I appreciate the sentiment, support Thresh, but no, I'm not.
It's
Everybody should be buying
everyone's
wards.
job. Everyone's job to ward, not just the support.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
you want to learn how to make your support love you? You buy that pink ward.
There you
That
go.
will instantly turn on your support to be like, oh yeah, this guy, I like him.
They will honor you and send you a friend request after the game.
Probably.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, in solo queue, guaranteed. If you play well and you ward, that support is gonna love you. And it goes both ways. Like if you're playing a support and your AD carry, starts to ward like that, kudos him. Like be like, yo, buddy, I really appreciate that you're not in this lane by yourself. Like I thank you so much. So everything is you're on a team, so be appreciative of each other. All right, so no, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about Dragon as an AD carry.
Okay.
Oh, let's all just do what you want to do then.
Well, okay. Do you want to talk about?
No, it's fine. This is the Asterition show. We'll just. I mean, despite the fact that he can't start a single episode without screwing something up and he doesn't remember to turn his phone off, we'll just do whatever you want. That's fine.
you. All right. So
No, it's fine.
Source angst.
Snaggle can run it from here on out. You go ahead.
I just want you to tell me you appreciate me.
I love you.
That's all.
I love you. You know I love
It's so
you.
hard. Can't remember the last time you brought me flowers.
I'm sorry. It's hard. You know that I work a lot.
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh
Okay,
my
sorry.
God.
What were you saying?
Oh, I don't even know anymore. Oh, what talking about?
I'm sorry, guys. I'm real tired.
We're talking about mid, right?
Yeah, I love Ziggs.
Yeah.
Midland.
I want to talk about Dragon as an AD carry.
Dragon.
Okay.
I want to talk about what's the AD carry's job when taking Dragon.
Shoot it a
Right
bunch.
click the dragon.
Yeah, right click the tray.
Right click it and then go AFK.
Position yourself. I want to positioning, okay? Say
Obviously, I'd say position-wise, you don't want to stand next to the dragon.
Mm-mm.
It's going to it applies a debuff.
you're drunk.
Pretty sure it applies a debuff. Oh, I need more beer actually. Not drunk enough. Which lowers your attack speed, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it does.
Your job is to do as much damage as possible to the dragon because you are the primary source of damage for a single target. Lowering your attack speed will not help that. And of course, you're going to be squishy because you're goading damage items, not defensive items.
Mhm.
So let somebody else tank it, and then you just kind of stay back and right-click. And at the same time, watch out for the enemy. You don't want to get picked off if they're trying to contest the dragon. You don't want to take any harassment because that would put you at low health. Just mind where you are,
Mhm.
as is the case in all stages of the game with marksman.
Yeah. It's kind of dependent on what's going to happen at the pit. You could be like, all right, well, this should be a free dragon, just auto-attacking. You don't really care about positioning. And, sometimes that'll be fine. But other times, there may be some contest for it. And kind of touched on this a couple episodes ago about who is where in a fight. You want to, as an AD carry, you want to position yourself in a way that if you need to get out of you're generally going to be in the pit. more often than not, if you're looking to take a dragon and they may try to siege, you're probably going to be, if not at the entrance of the pit, actually in the pit. Am I correct?
Yes. It depends on what side you're on.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're on the blue team and you have a way to get over the wall inside
Definitely in the pit.
then yeah, you can stay with inside the pit, and then if the enemy comes to contest and things get too hot, you can just hop over the wall and then you're safe. If you're on the purple team, then you probably want to stay outside of the pit because that wall's not going to help you. You want to run towards your base if the enemy is coming.
Yeah, and away from where you think the enemy will be coming from. So if you know they're coming from mid lane, then kind of put yourself over towards the bottom side of the river. If they're coming from bottom, if they're coming from bottom river, position yourself accordingly. So, and that's really important as an AD carry. Also important as an AD carry, unless your team plans on turning to go, like turning from the dragon onto the enemy team. We talked about this. Let your mid laner and let your support try and deal with whoever is coming. If it's a jungler, let them deal with it. Don't switch targets. Your damage on the dragon is almost mandatory, unless it's really low.
Your damage can be the most important, as we touched on. It's really hard to say in a general sense when to swap off of it. I think you've got the right idea to say just stay on the dragon. Especially if it's low health because you want to finish that thing off. Mm-hmm. But scenarios where you would swap off mostly revolve when you're working on a 5-man team, and you've got somebody that can actually communicate with the rest of the team and say, all right, switch targets, start attacking the enemy team instead of the dragon.
Yeah. And it's just like, try and make it a habit to do. Like, if you don't want to listen to what I say and you don't want to swap, then do that. But make sure you're consistent with it, because if you're not, then you're just going to give yourself bad habits that could conflict with, the general, overall benefit of the team. So if you're the type of person that you're like, no, I just want to go attack the enemy, then do that and get used to doing that. But just know that that's not what we recommend in a dragon fight like that. And the same thing goes for Baron.
Right, that's what I was going to say. A lot of what we just said applies directly to Baron.
Yeah.
Except the teams are obviously switched. When you're on the purple team, or red team, and you're taking Baron, then you do have a wall to jump over if you need to be safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dragon fight for AD carry is really touchy and really finicky. It's tough, or Baron fight, I'm sorry. Baron fight for AD carry can be really controversial, and you may conflict with yourself sometimes. You're like, man, I really should help the team try and deal with these guys on the outside. But if the Baron is lower than half health, you got to understand that, like, you need to just finish that thing off as quickly as you can so that they can't steal it. So the closer they get to that objective, the greater the odds of them being able to steal it is.
Yeah, I'd say it's even more so important with Baron to stay attacking Baron when it's at low health, just because the benefit is just so much greater when you kill it. Mm-hmm. Actually, one rule of thumb that might be good to consider is when your jungler leaves Dragon or Baron, that might be a good time to switch targets.
Yeah, I like that.
Because your jungler is usually the one securing the kill with a smite, and if they're not there to do so, that's usually a good sign that they don't think they can get it, and that you should help him kill whatever target he's on.
Yeah, we'll talk about jungle and all that like next episode, but yeah, I agree. That's a good rule of thumb.
And also, if you screw it up, don't get down on yourself. There's pro players in the LCS who frequently screw up Baron and Dragon fights, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah. All right, so, early game went okay. You got your Vamp Scepter, you got some of your core items. You're starting to work towards the mid lane. You secured a couple of objectives, but the match is seeming to be, pretty even. But you have both turrets in the bot lane have been killed. You killed their turret, and they killed your turret. So now you guys are roaming. As an AD carry, what is your primary job in the mid to late game?
Mid to late game?
Mm-hmm.
Shoot stuff a bunch.
That's pretty much it, with the caveat to stay safe while you're shooting things a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
You said shoot things a butt.
I did. Yeah, it was a beer. Tee-hee.
Tee-hee. Tee-hee.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this a bunch, don't die, but would it be correct in saying that when you're the ADC, you are most wanting to not die of anybody on the team?
Mm-hmm. Correct, since you're dealing the most damage on the team. Or most of the time you're the one dealing the most damage on their team. Once you go down, once you die, the enemy team has a huge advantage because your team's damage output goes down by a bunch, and assuming their AD carry is still up, they are going to have a huge damage advantage, and then it's going to turn sour.
Yeah. Agreed. So a good mathematical way of thinking about AD carry and what what you should be thinking about when the mid to late game is you understand that you're the primary damage dealer, and you understand that you bring the most to objectives. So having an objective based mentality when you're going into the mid to late game, thinking about I could really push a lane real quick and get some easy damage on a turret because you know that they just backed. Those are the sorts of things that you should be thinking about as an AD carry, more so than other champions, because you can dish out a lot of good, single target damage on a tower or on a buff or, on an inhibitor. So objectives are something I think that AD carries don't focus on enough.
I agree. Those are tricky, though, because in the mid to late game, there's a lot of roaming going on from both sides.
Yeah.
And that means that unless you've got a lot of wards out on the map, it can be pretty easy to get caught if you're overextended. So if you don't have a lot of vision and you don't know where the enemy is, you pretty much always want to stay with your team.
Yeah.
If you do have an opening and you know that you're safe, you can continue pushing and take out a tower, and that's a very ideal situation.
I definitely want to emphasize the fact that you're not supposed to be alone as an AD carry.
Right.
Do not split push if you're playing marksman.
unless you're like the crazy fed Vayne that can, or like Jinx that can kill something within like a heartbeat. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, if you're like rolling the other team and you're real good with Vayne, go for it. But if you're learning the role, you're new to the game, you don't want to be alone. You want to operate under the buddy system as the ADC. Always be with a buddy.
Definitely.
You talked about roaming earlier. And you definitely want to be roaming with a buddy. You also don't want to be leading the way.
No, yeah.
You want to let somebody else explore those bushes because, again, you don't want to die. They can die, that's fine. You don't want to.
No. And I mean...
Just hold on, guys. I'm going to face check this bush real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just support you that.
As Jinx, I'm going to face check this bush. So, yeah, I agree. So, mid to late game, look for objectives because you can deal out a lot of damage on objectives. People they look at a turret and they're like, oh, we can't take that. It's at 3/4 health. Are you kidding me? You have 250 AD with 1.2 attack speed. Like, you're going to take that turret 10 seconds flat. Like, aim for those things and go for those things.
Turrets go pretty quickly.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you may be the only person on your team who can hit that turret, especially if the other team is trying to defend it. If you're playing Caitlyn, the other team's going to be trying to keep you off, but you've got so much range, you can pretty safely hit that turret without the rest of your team getting in too close.
Yeah, I like where you're going with this, too. We should talk about sieging as an AD carry, because I see way too many AD carries being like, oh, I'm not going to hit the turret, I'm going to hit the people under the turret. That's a huge mistake.
Yep, I agree. Turrets are definitely your primary focus. I mean, that's your job is to take out the turret. I can't really having a hard time thinking of a situation where you would not target the turret. I'm pretty sure you would still target. You would target it under all situations.
If you're sieging and you're not about to get engaged on, until you get engaged on and then you want to back up and actually fight, attack that turret. Let your mage, let your support, hell, let your jungler throw out stuff at the enemy to keep them off of you or keep them off the wave that you're sieging with. Like, you should not be attacking the enemy. Like, you gotta be on that turret.
Now, with that being said, this is all circumstantial, or this is all assuming that you're within range to attack the turret.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get within range to attack the turret, then obviously it's a good idea to harass the enemy as much as you can without getting caught.
Yeah, definitely. So, like, if they're sticking to the left side of the turret, make sure you're coming from the right side with some minions in your way, like that sort of thing. So, I mean, again, take everything we say circumstantially, but just know that generally when we're talking about sieging a turret, this is almost 100% true all the time when you're sieging the bot lane turret. You should never, ever, unless you're going to kill them, ever attack the enemy under their turret. Like, that is just, if you can get a free couple autos when a wave gets pushed, take advantage of that. That is free damage that they cannot stop. and that will add up to later.
That's a tough thing for a new player to remember sometimes, because
Yeah.
you get the smell of blood in the air and you see that their ADC is down to a quarter health, and you rush in to try and take him out, and you put yourself in turret range, and the turret aggro's on you, and holy hell, I died. What just happened? It's because you just took a bunch of turret shots because you're dumb.
Exactly, because you're dumb. Not because you're new, because you're dumb.
No, it's because you're dumb.
Yeah, you don't have to be new to make that mistake.
Yeah, I agree. No, I kind of, I mean, you really don't though. Like you're 10 levels into this, right? You understand that if you attack somebody underneath their turret, the turret will aggro you. Don't do it. Just don't. There's no point.
Yeah. Just, it's easy to get tunnel vision, but just always remember, don't die, and turrets will kill you real quick.
Yeah. All right. So team fight as an AD carry. We're not going to be able to teach you positioning in an episode like this. So
Right.
Okay, but true or false, the best place for an ADC to be is in the middle of the team fight, right next to the enemy Jax, correct?
Get
yes,
the fuck out of here.
absolutely correct.
I'm
You
uninstalling.
you should flash into their team and try and attack the mage.
Put yourself in melee range. Just do it. It's fun.
If you answered true to all these situations, you're wrong.
You're a bad AD carry.
Fucking wrong.
What
Yeah, just the general, in a nutshell, goal for team fights is to do as much damage as you can while avoiding damage. A lot of the times that means attacking whatever champion is closest to you, and most of the time that's going to be the enemy tank. So if the enemy or if your allies yell at you for attacking the tank, well, that's kind of your job, because you need to take out the closest threat to you. If that tank is a threat to you, meaning they can stun you or do enough damage to kill you because they're hella fed for some reason, then you got to focus them. If you can ignore that tank and he's not really a threat, and you can get to another semi-close target that is more of a threat,
Like
then
the bruiser.
attack that guy. Right, like a bruiser, like a Jax. Although the Jax will probably be targeting you, and you'll be running like hell.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different circumstances that come into a team fight. You know, who engages who has the advantage. Just know that, generally speaking, you're not going to be able to get to the back line. So just take that and just ingrain it into your mind. I am not going to be able to get to that Caitlyn. I'm not. I'm not going to be able to get to that Xerath. I'm not. I'm going to be going for the Leona that just got in. I'm going to be going for the Fizz that just jumped in. I'm going to be going for the Malphite that just ulted. That's who I'm going for.
I think another important and yet silly on the surface thing to mention is to remember to auto attack. When I first started playing, one of my most played champions of all time is Ezreal, and when he first came out, he was best played as an AP mage champion. So I cast a lot of spells with him. When he transitioned into the marksman role, I was still casting a lot of spells with him without realizing what I was doing. I wouldn't auto attack as much as I should have. I was just casting Q on cooldown and then running around like an idiot and then casting Q again. And it took somebody on my team to actually point out what I was doing for me to realize, yeah, I need to be auto attacking more. Auto attacking is your primary source of damage. You gotta do that. Don't focus on your abilities.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is actually a really good point. I see that happen. I see that happen with a lot of people in general. Like, not even just marksmen, just people just do it. They're like, oh, I'm just going to keep running at this person. I'm not going to use an auto attack to hit anything. I'm just going to run.
Yeah, there comes a point in the game where your abilities just don't do as much damage as your auto attacks do. And that's going to come. That comes when you've got maybe 2 or 3 items, probably 2 items. Definitely 2 big items. I think Caitlyn is a big violator.
Yes.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
See a lot of Caitlyn's use their Piltover Peacemaker in team fights.
Yep.
That's good early game because it's got high base damage. Once you've got auto attack, or once you've got items to augment your auto attacks, you don't even need to use that anymore. Just don't bother. Just auto attack.
I kind of want to say
And it
this.
takes so long, and it puts you in
right.
potentially in harm's way because you get stuck in one spot.
I also want to say that with the ultimate too. Like, Caitlyn's ult takes, I think it's 2 to 2.5 seconds to finish channeling and shoot.
Right.
So
yeah, you never want to cast that while
never in the middle of a fight should you cast that.
only cast that before the fight starts in order to do poke damage, or once the fight has already ended and somebody's getting away with low health.
And that's going, and that's to be said with pretty much any, like, even mages that have, like, anybody that has a very large channel up. Like, if you have to wait 2 seconds stationary in the middle of a team fight to cast Ezreal ult, don't cast the ult. If you have to, if you have to, like, be in the middle of the fight casting Lux ult, don't cast the goddamn ult. You get out of there and then cast it.
Yeah, usually those abilities have long range for a reason, so take advantage of that range.
Yeah. Same thing, like, less with Jinx ult and Ashe ult and things like that. Like, those things are pretty much instantaneous. Jinx takes, like, I think a 3/4 of a second, maybe half of a second. Same thing. I think Ashe is pretty much instantaneous, so those are okay. Same thing with, like, Varus.
Yep.
Yeah, with Varus, just, you can cast those immediately, but don't cast Caitlyn ult in the middle of a fight. Don't cast Ezreal ult in the middle of a fight. Like, that's just asking to get jumped on, killed, stunned, interrupted, dead. Yeah.
That's no bueno.
Yeah, very bad. Okay, well, we need to start wrapping this up because it's about to hit the hour-long mark.
Shit.
Yeah, I know, right? Long cast. All right, so why pick this role? Well, first, why pick this role? Why do you like this role? Why does anyone like this role?
Because you like seeing that kill score real high at the end of the game.
Oh yeah.
Nah, screw that. that's a trap for a lot of people. Getting kills is fun, and I'd say that is definitely a perk for playing the role, but that shouldn't be why you pick it up. We actually touched on a couple reasons why you'd want to play it. I think the first is you're strategic. You gotta pick your fights, know where you're positioned, know who you're attacking and why you're attacking them. You also need to work well with people, which we covered, because you're always going to have a partner in the bot lane. We covered strong mechanics, which is something you can learn if you don't have them already. And I think a last thing, this is kind of a personal opinion for me, is if you're reactionary, this might be the role for you. One example I use is StarCraft, particularly the Zerg race in StarCraft. Zerg is known as the reactionary race, meaning they look and see what their enemy is doing before they decide, and they make decisions based on that. They see, okay, my enemy is building this, I'm going to build this to counter that. AD carry is pretty similar in that they react to what the enemy does and what their allies do. Oftentimes they don't initiate a fight. They are reacting when one of their allies initiates a fight. For example, in the bot lane, if your support initiates a fight, then you follow up. Or if the enemy support, or for some reason the enemy AD carry initiates a fight in the bot lane, then you follow up. You react. The same goes with item choices. We talked about Last Whisper as your go-to armor penetration item. You don't always need to build that if the enemy isn't building armor. You gotta pay attention to what they're building in order to make your item choices.
Yeah.
Hit that tab key.
Yeah. I like that. I think that's a very fair point. They do tend to be really reactionary. I didn't really notice that before.
Also, the Zerg are kind of the most mechanically complex race, I would
that's
think.
true. Yeah, AD carry is a very complex role, so it requires a lot of practice and a lot of skill. And I gotta say that if you're looking to get into this game legitimately to a point where you feel like you've established a really good sense of the game, AD carry is probably a really good role for you. Just learning to take hold of a game and be like, all right, I am going to go try hard because I'm a little bit angry about something, and and that may happen. Like, I've gone try hard as AD carry and just straight out like hyper carried because I was just like, you know what? Fuck that guy. You dove me under my turret, and you didn't need to do that. You died for that kill for no reason. And I mean, you still got the kill, but no, fuck that. and you go try hard. Like if that's you, if that's the type of person like, oh shit, that person just scored on me, and now I'm pissed off, and I'm gonna go really try hard. 80 carry, all the way.
I also like the point Punch made. It might seem at first glance that 80 carry is kind of a lone wolf role, like you want to rack up the kills and stuff, but
Nope.
it's not like top lane. You're not on an island, and you're not kind of responsible for your own destiny. You still really have to work with people, especially your support. So if
going
you're
to be, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah,
No,
you're
it's
going
fine.
to be next to, you're going to be next to somebody throughout the
Yeah.
vast majority of the game. You're very seldom alone.
Yeah. All right, so recommended AD carry champions. Everybody, let's. There's a lot of AD carries, so let's each give our 2 favorite AD carries and why you think you should play them.
as the AD carry, probably the least good AD carry. Wow, that took a while for me to get that out. I'm going to say Caitlyn. She's a great place to start. We've mentioned her before. She's got the highest range. She's probably the safest AD carry. She's got an escape. She's real easy character to understand. She's got an execute for her ult. I think she's great.
Yeah, she's a good one. Who else?
Also, I really like Twitch just because he's a big stinky rat and he's fun to play.
Twitch is good. Twitch is fun. He's a blast, actually. He's really fun.
Just to clarify, are we talking about my favorite AD carries or AD carries that are good to practice?
Your favorite AD carries, because I mean,
Oh, crap.
we've gone over recommended AD carries, and okay, go with the ones that you feel you have the most success and you have the most fun in tangent with each other.
Oh, man. I see it's really hard to narrow it down to 2. I guess, since Ezreal is my most played champion ever, I kind of have to include him. Since I played him so much. I just really like his ability to stay safe with his Arcane Shift, and as well with his ability to... it's kind of hard to explain, but he's got a lot of... what am I thinking of? What's the word I'm thinking of?
Versatility.
Oh, versatility, thank you. That is exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
So you can poke with his Q, you can stay safe with his E. He's actually not that bad auto attack wise, because his passive does lend him attack speed to augment those auto attacks. And it just feels like he's a really fun champion. He's got a lot of spells to cast.
He's got
Plus
that
he buffs
awesome
his
global
fun.
ult.
Yeah.
Well,
Do you
very fun.
require a map? No.
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 No maps.
No, I don't need a map. I agree. I like Ezreal. I'm surprised you didn't say Jinx.
Jinx is another one of my favorite carries. I guess I'll just name her as my second. I can't really name why I like her so much. I think her passive is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
When you get a kill, when you kill a tower, you gain movement speed, and that allows you to normally follow up with another kill by chasing the enemy, or getting the fuck out of there because you're at low health after a fight. She's also got a lot of range, similar to Ezreal. I'm kind of a sucker for range. With her Q, that gives her base attack range. Her W, a slow, also has long range, and her ultimate is global, obviously.
Yeah. Jinx is cool. Jinx is a cool character, and she's hilarious. I'm crazy! I gotta talk to someone.
She's got a very cool theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Alright, my 2. My black friend, Lucian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, Lucian's one of my favorite AD carries. He's... Oh, wait, yeah, it's funny. If you were to ask for one of the strongest AD carries, I think Lucian came out about a year ago. Lucian would be on, like, the bottom of the list. I think
Everybody was
He was
just,
on top.
he's so bad, he's terrible. Lucian
It is so
sucks.
funny because, like, when he was first released, I heard Pone be like, "I don't think anyone's ever killed anybody with the culling ever." Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I've killed like 6 people with the culling in one team fight. I know that's not possible, but like, it's so he's a blast. I love him. And I gotta say, my boy Varus. Oh my goodness, I love Varus.
Yes.
He's so much fun, and he's strong. He's just a good champion. He has a mix of everything. He's got some magic damage kind of dabbled in there, so they can't straight out counter you with armor. You have a massive, massive AoE CC if you time it right. You have the longest skill shot in the game with your Q that deals like retarded amount of damage.
Yeah, it scales very well with attack damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, Varus and Lucian are two of my favorite, and they're both thematically really cool too.
Yeah. You can surprise execute people when you figure out how to use those blighted stacks correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's really fun. Those are my guys.
I'd say especially after Lucian's recent rework, he became a lot more fun to play.
Yeah.
Because you're pressing a lot of buttons. They're also, his Q, his W, his E, all those spells have relatively short cooldown, especially with the change they made to his passive, which lowers the cooldown on his E when he auto attacks.
No,
So
but Punch, they
shit.
cut his range down. He's terrible now.
La
That's
la
why
la
the
la
LCS
la
playing
la la
constantly.
la la la.
So, you're an idiot.
He's so bad now. He's so.
We hate you, Reddit. You're a bunch of liars.
You know this win rate increased by
Like 5%. That's insane.
45%? Yeah. Meanwhile, everyone's talking about how bad he is.
Yeah, that's
I
funny.
don't think so.
All right, well, we got to wrap this up. One, I need to use the bathroom, and I'm hungry as hell. And two, I got to go back to class in about 45 minutes, so.
Lame.
Gonna wrap this up. Next week, we are talking about jungle. Guys, I'm hopefully going to pull on either Cheer Jaden or Declad. Hell, if we can get them both, that'd be awesome.
Chi-Chi JJ?
Yeah, Chi-Chi Declad. So, that's the plan for next week. You got
Real
something?
quick before we end things, I want to mention that once again this year I am participating in Extra Life. It is a 24-hour gaming marathon to support sick kids. Everybody wants to help sick kids, right? So I'm gonna put
No.
a link. Well, except for Asduration, but he's a butthole, like it says in the video description above. So yeah, I'm going to try and stream it. I need to look into my internet. My upload is not great right now. But hopefully I'm going to get that fixed. But anyway, there's the link there. If you want to donate, remember, it is not for me. It is for kids, and it's probably going to be as miserable as it was last year, staying up playing video games for 24 hours. So you can at least pay to have me suffer.
Lel,
Oh, you're awesome.
do it.
Way to go, man. I'm excited for this.
Punch, you got any farewell words before I close this thing out?
No.
None?
No.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Punch. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
You
Yeah, man.
gave us great information, and of course, we always like having guests on the show because apparently I'm just really bad at this whole podcasting thing, and it's good to.
It's
good
nice that we were able to get you on without Twitch or Asduration screwing it up.
Yeah. Even though I kind of
fine.
sort of did anyway. All right,
Thanks
guys.
for having me. It was fun.
So Punch, you can follow Punchinello on Twitter at Punchinello. It's not like
Actually,
Snaggle.
it's actually at Raymond Flint
oh, fine, whatever.
for some reason.
Oh, it looks like
Like
you're
that, but
wrong
shit.
again.
I am wrong.
Asduration, you
Raymond
butthole.
Flint.
Asterp Kittens, Raymond Flint. There it is for those of you
Yep.
in the Twitch chat. But yeah, Raymond, Raymond Flint, Flint. No space, nothing there. Just type it in, follow him
I
there.
tweet stupid things about stupid things.
Yeah, I don't tweet. I'm starting to tweet more, but yeah. And you can always follow us on Twitter as well, at Doc_Chicken, because it's the like weirdest Twitter handle ever.
It is not. Watch the Eric Andre show. It's hilarious.
And at Asterition.
What does Asduration even mean?
It doesn't
It's
mean
nonsense.
anything. It doesn't mean anything. Don't.
Exactly. A doc chicken is easy to understand. It's a chicken who's a doctor.
You get me drunk enough, I'll tell you one day how I came up with Asterition.
Challenge
day.
accepted.
Yeah. All right, guys. Don't forget to check out www.trainingforcepodcast.com. Of course, if you always have any questions for myself, or if you want me to get a hold of Punch and you want to talk to him, go ahead and email us at ballerina@trainingforcepodcast.com and or add us in-game at Asdration, at Snagglewolf, and at Punchinello. It's
L at the end of Punchinello.
yeah, LLOO at the end. So it's Punch in L
Somebody stole
O.
my fucking name.
It's like Jello. It's like Jello, but in L-O with an extra O.
I thought your name was Punch and Jello when I first was made aware of you, and I thought
I
awesome.
also use Punchinello as my Twitch name, as you can see in the Twitch chat.
it's pretty great.
It's kind of my go-to backup now.
Nice. All right, guys, got to cut this loose because I got things I got to do. But I love you guys. and
Don't give me your sob story. Just end this crap show.
It's always a crap show. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Take it easy, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.